Comment below your favorite word game because you genuinely might have a new one by the end of this video. Hi, I'm Caravan Dan from Gaming Caravan, a tabletop community based in Central Florida, and today I'm going to be talking about Better Letters, a new game by Scott Brady and Play to Z Games. Better Letters is a 2 to 6 player, fast-paced, real-time game where players will craft the best words possible utilizing the rule cards set on the table. The way you set up the game is you're going to be starting off by doing a 3x3 grid of these rule cards right here, and everyone's going to choose one personal objective card that they will need to use during the game, as well as writing utensils, 6 tokens of one color from the bag. There's 6 different shapes in the bag with different colors on it for colorblind friendliness, or color tokens with shapes on it for colorblind friendliness. Everyone's going to need one sheet of paper. Make sure you have it on the right side if you're playing with 5 or 6 players, or 2 to 4 players. Just have it on the proper side for that. And once everyone has that, you will be good to go. The way you'll play the game is everyone's going to not look at this as much as possible. You're going to get your 60-second timer out, and then you're going to do a countdown with 3, 2, 1, start. Everyone's going to look at the rules and try to construct the best word possible, utilizing the rules in the middle of the table. Now, the rules can be anything. I have the best array right here for it, but we have things like must be 6 letters long exactly, does not use an A, includes a Z, starts with an E, 9 or more letters, 3 or more syllables, exactly 1 S, including NG. These are all the examples of what's on there, including a blocked. The block will block your path, which matters for good reason. When you construct your word, what you'll need to do is construct an orthogonal path throughout this layout right here for a maximum of 6 rules. Now, that might sound kind of easy because you can just do 1 or 2 rules, but here's the thing. If some other player does the exact same rule as you, you guys will earn 1 less point for that rule, and if it's only worth 1 point, you just don't get a point for that rule. So you can actually get, it's a very low scoring game, surprisingly. The winner for us was like 30-something points after 6 rounds. Well, technically 5 because we redid the first one. But let's go ahead and I'll do an example for you right now. If I'm looking at this right here, I have a couple seconds left on the clock. 6 letters, I don't want, and yeah, so what's going to happen is you're going to choose any of the rule cards to start off with and construct an orthogonal path using the rest of the rules. You can't skip over any rules right there. So if you want to use something like starts with an E, you're going to want to make sure you go around to get to that. It's better to start off with something you're confident with, like starts with an E, you know you're building something with that. It does not use an A. So if I use the word ethical, that's fine. E-T-H, and you can spell it down on your sheet. Your sheet has 3 slots for words just to try it out. Once you have a confirmed word, do a check mark by it. If you have no word by the end of the 60 seconds, or you have no selected words, you're supposed to skip over it. The way we played it last night for our first time is we wrote the word in 60 seconds, and we gave each other a couple more seconds to choose which word was best. It's best played if it's a fast-paced scenario. I think 2 minutes would be the best time for it, personally. But 1 minute really does get your blood pumping and make you kind of struggle just to grab a word for it. And the reason why the blocked matters is you're not able to go through the blocked path. So if you go something from 3 syllables, exactly 1 letter to NG, your path is blocked. So you might want to start the other direction to get out of that blocked area. You don't get any points for a blocked path, and any objective that gets used, regardless by the amount of people, will be discarded by the end of that round, and anything that's unused will go ahead and gain +1 point to incentivize other players to use that for the next round. And if it's still left over, you flip it over to +2 points. So some of these difficult ones can get more and more. So really you're trying to do 2 things. What's the best path I can do with the words I have available, on top of what are my opponents possibly doing to stay away from? Typically you might want to stay away from the 1-point ones, because if anyone shares those with you, you don't get any points for that. Which I wish I knew last night. So you might want to stick over this path where it's 3 syllables and 9+ letters. To do something like that, I would do something like anti-disestablishmentarianism, which is also exactly 1 S, but does not include with a Z. But that way I'd get these points right here. So let me just go ahead and write that down. The words you have available, it has to not contain any hyphens or apostrophes, cannot be a proper noun. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any of that. Oh, and it has to be found in an English dictionary. The only reason that matters is if another player is trying to call you out on it, say it's not a real word. I would say you don't really have to know how to spell it perfectly, as long as you know the word and you look it up. I think that's how we've been playing it, because honestly, no one can spell these days. And anti-establishmentarianism, I can spell pretty well. Oh, but there's not exactly 1 S, good to know. So I'd only get these 2 points right here, which would be 3 to 4, or 4 to 6 points, depending on anyone shares them with me. Whenever you have these objectives, submit a word without using a do not use card. And that's what would happen right now. So I'd be able to score that right now. The points are the dots on the bottom corners of the cards right there. And also, The cards are color coordinated so you know exactly when you glance at it what's going to contain. The light greenish letters, the light greenish cards have number of letters in the word. The tealish cards, bluish, has a do not use that letter. The blue cards have includes that letter. Red cards are exactly that many letters. Brown cards are including 2 letters, like an NG or an IN or something like that. The purple cards start with exactly 1 letter, and the pink cards are the mouse syllables in the word. And then the gray cards are just block cards right there. So the game is, I would say, very fun, very easy to get behind. The reason this game stands out is it's a very open-ended word game, kind of like Scattergories, but Scattergories is a little bit too open-ended. It's really just you write down as much as you can in 60 seconds. This one's more like a tactical word game where you really have to be decisive about the words that you're looking for. Instead of the shotgun approach like Scattergories, you need kind of a sniper's approach to have the best word for the situation. And as opposed to other word games like Scrabble and Letter Tycoon, you don't need to have the game, or you don't need to have the letters available to you. These are just, and you don't even have to do all the objectives. That's as many objectives as you think you can handle. That's really how the game plays, which I do appreciate. The contiguous line is also a really cool implemented feature, which makes you limiting, because honestly, like, you can score 4 of these right off the bat if you wanted to. However, maybe only 2 of them are next to each other, or maybe 3, now you have to think of a harder word. So instead of potentially getting lucky on some stuff, you really have to be intentional with what you get and where you go. And these block paths can really mess you up. There's going to be 1 block path per section at least. Once you get a second one, you're supposed to discard it, and I think that's a pretty important feature. Now let's go to the buy, try, or deny section, which I say whether or not you should buy the game for you, because not every game's for every person. If you try to make a game for every person, no one's going to be happy with it. But this game really fits. You should definitely try this game if you're looking for a creative, fun word game with a structured infrastructure. Because too many word games are pretty simple. It's like you have letters, make words. This one is you have important objectives that you can hit. So it's a lot of options. It's really open-ended to you and what you want to do with those options, which I think more games should utilize the player's brain. Like that's why I really like Scattergories. But Scattergories, again, it's really how many words do you know that follow this concept. And then you get like 1 point for each of them. So I think this is a nice balance between those two things, where instead of the shotgun approach, instead of like the super limiting feature, you have an open-ended sniper type approach that I mentioned before, where you really have to get the right word. And it's really cool to see what words your friends know, and it's really fun to see how little your brain knows when it's structured, or whenever it's like stressed for time, because 60 seconds goes a lot faster than you think it does, even if you think it's a short amount of time. But definitely try this game if you're a fan of Scott Brady games. I would say this definitely fits in his collection of games that he's designed with Hues and Cues. It's a good game you can play with anyone. If you're looking for games to play with just about anyone, regardless of if they play board games or not, this is right up their alley. It's kind of difficult to see everything, but it's kind of difficult for everyone to see everything, so it's kind of balanced in that regard. You really have to like pay attention and look at the rules. I would say maybe give everyone a minute to look over the rules for a second first before you get started, just to make it fair if they're not like super competitive. If you're looking for a quick, fun little filler game, because again, it's a 20-minute or under game, this one would be great filler games to bust out really quickly. The longest part of it really is a setup and tear down, because you take things off. You have to make sure you're not taking off the wrong ones. You refill the scene. You have to look, make sure it's a 3x4, 3x3, or 4x4, which isn't long. It's just a minute between rounds or something like that. But it's fun just to have some downtime and talk about that stuff. But don't play this game if you don't enjoy word games. The entire game is a word game. A lot of people don't like Scrabble. This isn't a game this isn't like a Scrabble game. However, if you like games like Scrabble, you might like this game. This is a game where it's its own regard. If you find the real-time pressure obnoxious, don't play this game, because you kind of need the real-time pressure to have everyone under the same thumb type situation. And for one thing that I was sad about is that there is no solo game for this. It's 2 to 6 players specifically. So if you're strictly a solo gamer with no one, you don't play games with anyone, this is not a game you should add to your library, unless you do like a fan version of a solo game, which I think is very doable. I would like to do something like this, where you give yourself 60 seconds, just see how many points you can score. Almost like a Rolling Realms thing, where you can kind of just do it with yourself. I might just do some live streams with it, potentially, but that is where I'm at with this game. This game is a justification to have with almost anyone's collection. It's a very thin box, very wide, but very thin box, as you can tell. If you see right here, you can see just how thin the box is. Like, that's microscopic, which I thought was a little wonky. But when you put it in, everything goes completely flush. There's no box lift. You have room for 2 of this, 1 of this, and then you have a bag for the tokens that go right here. And then you have the rule pad and the rules that go right on top of that. Very simple, very flush, very well designed. And it's a game I could definitely see sitting in my collection for a good amount of time to fill that word game. I'm an English major, so I do have a background, and I do have a predisposition to love word-based games or like English-based games. So this is definitely right up my alley. Thank you for taking me a copy, Scott Brady, and I'm looking forward to seeing what more comes from Play to Z and Scott Brady's games. Thank you for watching. Tell me what games you want to see before we buy a video on next. But all in all, peace, have a great day, God bless, and I hope to see you at a table soon.